As we're all settling into the semester in new classes, I wanted to help you think about what you'll need to know about this class and what you'll learn. In the first module, we'll get to know each other and start to understand what industrial and organizational psychology, abbreviated as IO-Psych, is. As you might know, psychology defines itself as a scientific discipline. In other words, psychology uses systematic research methods to increase knowledge and understanding. Given that, the reading for this class makes frequent reference to different types of studies. So I want to make sure you're familiar with two of the main ideas in research: the types of studies and how we can evaluate and measure. The technical terms are research design, reliability, and validity. You won't need to be able to go through all the steps to design a study or even critique a study, but it'll be helpful to understand the concepts well enough to be able to answer the questions for this module. That understanding will also help you get an idea of where we're coming from when we talk about each of the topics in class. Before we get to those details, though, I want to make sure to highlight a few things that will help you succeed in this class. The schedule table in the syllabus and in the overview file is really a snapshot of everything you need to know about what you'll need to do to succeed in this class. It summarizes the topics you'll need to understand, what you'll need to do to learn about those topics, and when you'll need to do it, as well as how you'll demonstrate your knowledge. The topics you'll need to understand are listed in the unit title column. I use labels from the textbook chapter titles, so they might seem a little less than engaging, but we'll think about how they apply to your day-to-day life and how they can help you understand an important part of everyone's life: work. Students who've taken this class in the past have mentioned that at first they weren't sure if it'd be very interesting or relevant, but as the class went on, they found it helped them understand a lot of things and helped them navigate in their part-time jobs, internships, and post-graduation careers. Looking back at the summary table, the left column also highlights how you'll demonstrate your knowledge on exams. Those will include multiple choice and open-ended questions. The open-ended questions are the same for each exam, so you don't need to figure out how to interpret new prompts for each exam, and you can focus on explaining what you've learned about the new topics. The first exam is already visible in the course site, so you can start thinking about those questions as you complete each of the learning activities. Those learning activities are listed in the top row. You'll have multiple choice quizzes that help you focus your review of the resources. Discussions help you deepen your knowledge by thinking about the material in a different way. Notice there are 3 references to the discussions in the table on 3 separate days for each unit. That emphasizes the idea that you'll have 3 types of posts in each discussion. You'll post your thoughts about the prompt, then you'll respond to your colleagues' thoughts about the prompt and ask questions. And the third type of post is replies to your colleagues' questions about your original post. The separate deadlines for each type of post are to allow time for everyone to participate given our unique schedules. That said, students who mentioned how valuable this class was were also the ones who posted on multiple days each week. In other words, completing the original post and responses to colleagues on the same day and never returning to the discussion is not as helpful for learning or making the class meaningful. That said, the learning logs encourage you to revisit all of the ideas and think about them from multiple perspectives. The design of that assignment is based on what we know about learning and memory from research in cognitive psychology and the learning sciences. And given that, the idea is that you'll go back to the information in the module multiple times rather than completing everything on one day and forgetting about it for the next week. One of the reasons I was drawn towards industrial and organizational psychology is that it is truly multidisciplinary. We draw on knowledge from multiple specialties within psychology, but the topics also overlap with business, communication, and sociology, to name a few. One of the reasons I enjoy teaching this class is because it is also multidisciplinary. It's a requirement or an elective for a number of majors and minors, so we have the benefit of learning from those perspectives. The first discussion will help you get to know your colleagues, who represent all of the academic areas listed in this slide. In addition to helping you get to know each other, this module will also include an overview of research designs. This might be a review for you, or it might be just enough for you to get your bearings with this new information. When we think about research designs, the main idea is that we can go about gathering data for research in multiple ways, and each of those ways helps us understand something different. As you're reading, you'll want to know what we can understand from each of the 3 basic types of designs: experimental, quasi-experimental, and non-experimental. we're thinking about those ways of designing a study, we also need to think about reliability and validity. Those ideas apply to multiple parts of the research process, but in our case, we're interested in how they relate to the way we measure variables. When we're measuring something, we try to determine how much of something we have. In I/O, we're usually trying to figure out where a person fits in a range of possible scores for knowledge, skills, abilities, or other individual difference characteristics. It's a fancy term we'll learn more about soon. Those measures are used for a number of things, including deciding whether to hire a person for a job. So we want to make sure we have a good measure, which is formally described as a reliable and valid measure. One of the questions we can ask is whether the measurement is consistent, otherwise known as reliable. If it's not consistent, we really can't draw any knowledge from the results because we don't know how much variation is because of what we're interested in and how much of it's because of that measure. The textbook talks about the ways we can determine if a measure is reliable. If a measure is reliable, then we need to ask what we're measuring. We need to question the validity of the measure. The types of validity can be a little overwhelming, but I have a feeling some of the ideas are familiar. If you've ever heard someone say, "I knew the material, I just have a hard time with multiple choice tests," you've heard someone question the validity of a measure. Resources for this module will help you learn more about each of these questions, but I hope this video helped you put those resources in context. If I had to summarize it in a tweet, I might say, this multidisciplinary class is based on science, and success depends on reliably engaging with the learning activities. They're valid. And with that, you might be able to tell I don't tweet much.